Taking your hardtop off of your Jeep is usually a pain, considering that it's heavy, awkward to take off, and sometimes it can be difficult to find an extra hand to help and a place to store it. Now, this Lang Originals Gen 2 hoisted cart will be a great solution to taking the top off without the extra hand or the struggle, and the ability to store it away for your 2018 and newer JL Wrangler. Now, this type of system will also be great if you don't have a garage or one that's tall enough for a ceiling-mounted hoist, but still want the luxury of hardtop removal and hardtop storage. This will feature a crank pulley system, making it effortless to lift the top and large straps to hold it in place. Now, once the top is off the Jeep, you can lower it and rotate it down onto the cart so you don't have to worry about it being in the air or damaging it when you place it on the ground. Now, also, with standing the top upright, this will offer a more compact design to save space and offers you storage for your doors as well, making this an all-in-one storage system. Now, when it comes to the construction, I don't have everything on the table here just because there are a lot of components to the frame that you will have to build, but the frame here is going to be made of a steel construction, being incredibly tough while boasting a nice red powder coat finish. Now, the hand crank and the cable that's going to lift the top will be made of steel, and it's going to come with a comfortable handle. Now, this will also attach with heavy-duty straps to support the top when it's being lifted. This kit will also come with heavy-duty swivel casters, 2 of them being lockable, making this very easy to maneuver and keep in place where you want it to be. Now, to prevent any damage, this also comes with foam bumpers for the bottom and rubber-coated hooks to keep your hardtop in mint condition. With all that being said, this will cost you roughly $750 and will be one of the more expensive options when it comes to hardtop removal and storage. Now, compared to other solutions, this is going to be incredibly versatile, considering that this is a mobile unit. You don't necessarily need a garage in order to utilize it, and it is pretty compact. Not to mention, this is going to come with door storage as well, which mostly all other options don't include, making this a one-stop shop for all of the pieces that you want to take off your Jeep in those warmer days. Now, this will be a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter with a pretty straightforward assembly. Now, it will take you about 2 hours to get this fully put together with some pretty basic hand tools. Now, at this point, we can head over to the shop and check out a detailed breakdown of the install and what that looks like step by step. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, a 3/16 Allen wrench, a plastic pry tool, a 1/2-inch wrench, an 11mm wrench, 14mm ratcheting wrench, a T40 and T50 torque socket, and 11 and 14mm sockets. What's up, guys? Today we're building a hardtop hoist for the hardtop of our Jeep, so let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is lay out a few of our pieces. We've got our 2 bars that have the 3 holes in them that are gonna be going parallel to each other like that. And then we have our shorter bar with our end plates with the 4 holes. This is gonna go right over the edge and line up with those 2 holes. And then we'll get our bar with the 4 holes. The 2 center ones are gonna line up with these 2 holes. And then our base here is gonna go on top of all of those. And then we'll get our 3.5-inch bolt with our lock nuts. The bolts are gonna go through the top to the bottom. We'll get our nuts on hand tight and leave it that way for now. So now we're just gonna drop our bolts in from the top. Get it lined up with our holes. And then we'll pick up that corner and thread our nut on. Now next we're gonna take the longer bar with the 2 end plates on them. This is gonna go on top of those 2 bars. And then we're gonna be using our 3-inch bolts for these. Drop them through the hole, and then we can get our nuts on the bottom. Next, we can install these connecting bars. This will connect the forwardmost and the middle bar here. There's one for each side. These are slightly different. Now, these welded tabs are gonna go towards that base plate in the back. On the left side facing the base plate, this one will have a hole further at the bottom. On the right side facing this way, it'll have a hole closer to the top. So once you get them in the right spot, you can slide this in. And then we're gonna take a 1 3/4 inch bolt and slide that through. And then we'll get a nut on the bottom. And we'll do that same thing on the other side with the bar that has this hole closer to up here. Now next we can install our casters. We have 2 different sets of them. We have the one with the brake that's gonna be going towards the back, and the one without the brake that's gonna be going on the front. So now we'll just lift up on this, get our caster in place. We're gonna be taking our 3/4 inch long bolts and nuts. Now once we have our bolts in, we can tighten those down with a 14mm socket and wrench. I'm gonna get the socket on the bottom and hold the bolt in the same position with the wrench so we don't scratch up the paint. Now, once you have all 4 of your casters tightened down, you can go ahead and tighten down everything that we've installed up to this point. Everything's gonna be the same 14mm wrench and socket. And you can repeat that process on the other side. Next, we can install our upright bar. This is gonna be mounting to our base plate here. We have this little nub sticking out. It's gonna go towards the top. And then we've got our 2 holes at the bottom that we're gonna put our bolts through. Slide that into place. Slide our bolt through. And then get our nuts on the other side. We're using our 3-inch bolts for this one. Then we'll take the same 14mm wrench and socket we've been using to tighten these down. Next, we can get our bar with our logo on it. we're gonna get the 2 holes at the top, and then we'll get our side plates, also with the logo, and raise them up. Now we're gonna be using the square pin on the bottom hole here. So we'll slide that through first. And then we'll take one of our 2.5-inch bolts and put that through the top hole. And then we can get our plate on the other side. And then we'll thread our nut on the other side of a bolt. And then 14mm socket and wrench to tighten that down. We're just gonna get it a little bit snug for now so that we can still fit our bar through the top here. Now we can grab our top bar. We have this roller up here. This is going to be at the end and facing the bottom of the pole that we just installed. So we'll slide this into place. Get that same 2.5-inch bolt through on the top. Thread on our nut. And do that same thing on the bottom. And get our nut on the other side. And we're just gonna leave these 2 loose for now. Next we can install our roller bushings. We have 3 of each of these sizes that'll be going to these 2 holes and this one. Now we're gonna take the thinner bushing and slide that inside. And then we'll slide that in between our 2 pieces. And then we'll lift up and put one of our 2.5-inch bolts through. And then get a nut on the other side. And we'll do that same thing for the other one. And then with those 3 installed, we can tighten down all of the bolts and nuts that we just installed. So once again, we'll get our 14mm wrench and socket to tighten these down. Next, we're gonna take another 2.5-inch bolt and we're gonna slide it through the hole in here, and we'll get a nut on the back. And then we'll take our 14mm wrench and socket to tighten it down. Now this bolt's gonna give the piece that we just assembled something to bottom out on when we slide it in here. And next we can install that piece that we just assembled. Next we can install our handle. So I'll just slide into the slot on the back of our upright. We'll put in our circular pin and lock that into place. Next we can assemble our rolling assembly. Now we have 2 of these pieces. We've got 1 for each side. Now this little raised platform here is gonna go towards the front. We have our locking key here. So we're gonna pull that out and twist it a 1/4 turn to lock it into place outside here. And then we have a roller bearing back here, roller bearing here. Those are gonna sit on here, and then we'll be able to slide back and forth. So we have a long bar that's gonna connect the 2 of these. There's an Allen head set screw here. So once we get that installed, we'll get our whole assembly onto our platform here, and then we can tighten down our bolts. So now we'll assemble our sliding assembly. we have these foam pieces that we're gonna slide one onto each side of our bar. And then we'll slide our bar into each end here. And then we can lift this assembly onto our crane. So now we'll lift this whole assembly onto our frame. You want to make sure your roller bearings are sitting in place. And then we're going to roll it all the way forward. It'll hit this stop so that's even on both sides, and we can tighten down our 2 set screws. So now we can come to our set screw and take a 3/16 Allen wrench to tighten that down. I've already done it on the other side. So now I'm just gonna pinch these 2 together and tighten that down. And now we'll just make sure our whole assembly rolls smoothly, which it is. So we're good to go there. Next, we can install this lower piece using 2 3-inch bolts. Slide those through our holes in the front, and then we can get our nuts on the back. And then we'll take our 14mm wrench and socket to tighten this down. And then with that in place, we can take our foam pads, slide those on over the edge there. Next, we can install our crank. We have our 3 holes on the back that are going to match up to our 3 threaded holes here. And we're going to use our 1/2-inch bolts. And then we'll grab a 14mm ratcheting wrench and tighten these down. Next, we're going to install our bolt and our handle. Now our bolt's going to go through these 2 sets of holes, and we'll get our nut on the other side. And then we'll take an 11mm socket and wrench and tighten that down. And then we can hold our crank and get our handle on. Just thread that on. And then we have our bolt with a washer, as well as a little spacer and a spring. So slide that in like that. And then we're gonna thread this into that nut. And then we just want this bolt to bottom out, so we'll take an 11mm wrench. So now we can start installing our strap. We're gonna be using the one that have the hook on each end. We're gonna have to put this under our bolt here. So I'm going to take the strap off the hook just to make it a little bit easier to slide through. And then we can get our hook back onto the strap. Just like that. So now we can take our strap. You wanna make sure it's nice and flat. And then we're gonna go in between these 2 roller bearings. And then over our second one. And then we're gonna drop this down. Now we can take the other end of our strap with the second clip. You wanna make sure this is super flat as well. And then we're gonna be going over the second roller bearing on the top here. And then over the next one, just like before. And then we're gonna take this all the way forward and over our other bearing. Next, we can install our hook. Now we have one for the JK and one for the JL. We're showing this on a JL, so we're gonna be using this hook, but they install the exact same way. So we have our carabiner clip that we're gonna slide over the hook here. We'll hook that on here and then tighten that up. Next, we can slide our pin into one of these 4 holes. We're gonna have to lift up the top of our hoist to get those holes to line up. Now, if you're at stock height, you're gonna wanna use one of these bottom 2 holes. If your Jeep's lifted, you're gonna use one of the upper 2 to get more height. So I'm gonna go with the second hole here, and I'll just lift up here until that hole lines up. And I can slide it through. And then you'll take the hook side and put that over the edge there. So now we're ready to unbolt our hardtop. So first we're gonna start up front with our Freedom panels. We have 4 latches on each of the panels to pop them out. Now the driver's side panel overlaps the passenger side. So I've got our latches undone here first. And then we'll just twist that one, pull down on this one. There's one up top here, it's a little hard to see. And another one in the back. And that'll give us the ability to pop this out of place. And now from the outside, we can lift this off. And you can do that same thing on the other side. Now with our Freedom panels removed, we have access to this one Torx bolt. So we'll take a T50 Torx socket to pop that out. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. Now we're on the inside of our hardtop. We have these 3 bolts. I'm on the passenger side here. You've got the same exact thing on the driver's side. So we're gonna take that same T50 Torx socket to remove these bolts. And then do that same thing on the other side. Next, we can install the bolt that we're gonna be attaching our lifting strap to. So we're gonna need to lift up on our hardtop and slide this bolt into our forwardmost hole. And then we're gonna get our large flat washer and then thread our nut on. And then you can take a 1/2-inch wrench just to snug that up a little bit. And then we'll do that same thing on the other side. Next, we can drape our lifting strap over the top of our hardtop. We have our 2 holes that are gonna slide over the bolts. So we're gonna get these over the sides. And then we're gonna get our lifting point right in the middle of our hardtop here. And then we can go back inside and mount these up. So now we're gonna lift up on our hardtop again. We're gonna slide our strap underneath and get this eyelet over the bolt. And then we have a wing nut to tighten it down with. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. So now we're ready to install our hook. Now for the JL, you're gonna be using this one. Once again, if you have a JK, you've got a little bit of a different hook. You can install this the same way as the JL. So this little hooked portion is gonna go around the weather strip here. We're gonna slide the top through that gap in between the glass. We'll hook that into place, and then we can shut our glass. And now we're ready to hook up our crane. So now we're ready to hook everything up to our hoist. I've got this in position underneath of the Jeep, slid in. I've got the locks on both of our wheels to make sure this won't go anywhere. So now we'll just hop up top, hook this up, and then we can adjust our strap. So now we're gonna start in the front. We'll grab our hook, pull down on that, and hook that in. And then we can come to the back. We're gonna slide that in and then twist that to lock it into place. And we can get this pulled nice and tight. So now with all the slack pulled on our cable, we can start cranking this to lift our hardtop up. And then we can unlock our wheels and start to slide this back using a guide hand to guide this back. So now we're ready to start lowering our top. Now you want to make sure that your pin here is in place so that this piece doesn't move here. Now we're going to be dropping this back so that these corners sit right up against these two pads on both sides. Now you also want to make sure that the locks on your wheels are engaged so this doesn't move around. So now I've put a couple microfibers, one on each side, right at the corner here while we lower it the rest of the way. That's just gonna protect the corner, make sure you don't chip any paint off your hardtop. And then we'll just let out some slack here. So now we need to tilt this thing up. So first we have to unlock our roller here. So we're gonna pull out this handle, you're gonna turn it a quarter turn, and that'll lock it out of place. Now on the other side, you wanna make sure that the handle is engaged. That way when we roll this forward, it's gonna lock into the forward hole on the other side. And now I'm gonna pick up our top from the front, slide it back towards me. We'll hear the pin on the passenger side of the hardtop lock into place, and then we can lift up to fold it back. So now with our hardtop in place, we can add our straps for our doors. We have a Velcro side that we're going to be putting towards the hardtop. We have the buckle at the bottom, and then we'll slide that under here. And then through the buckle. And you can do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll start disassembling our doors so that we can mount it onto our hoist. Now next we're going to remove our doors. So we're going to start on the inside here. We need to pop off this trim panel. So I'm just going to take a trim tool, pop that out of place. And then that gives us access to our connector as well as the hook. So we'll pull our door in a little bit to give us some slack on our hook. Pop that off. And then we can come down here, we're gonna push up on this red tab. And then we can get a pry tool behind the white tab, pop that up all the way, and then we can slide our connector out. Next we can come into our door jamb. We're gonna have to remove this T40 bolt. So we've got a T40 Torx socket to pop this out. And now we can hop on the outside, and we have a T50 bolt on the top and bottom hinge. So we'll get a T50 Torx socket and remove these two. And now with all of our hardware removed, we can lift up on our door to remove it and get this on the cart. And now we're just gonna line up our 2 hinges onto those rubber mounts. And now we'll just grab our Velcro strap and run that through the door handle. And then strap it down, and that'll just keep our door from swinging. And once you got one door on here, you can do that same exact thing with the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Lange Originals Gen 2 Hoist-A-Cart for your 2018 and newer Jeep Wrangler JL. Thank you for watching, and for all things Wrangler, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.